I'm tired and I'm sweaty, so let's go over these books I read in October. How do we start this video? I want to talk about the books that I read in October. I picked 7 books. I was not able to read them all. I think I would have hit my goal if I didn't decide to reread a book that I didn't include in my TBR video, and that book was Quicksilver by Callie Hart. So this was the second time reading this book. I was not let down. It was just as good as I remembered. This was the second version that I have. I do have the original version with Kingfisher on the front, but when Callie Hart talked about releasing a new edition along with a matching one for Brimstone, I scooped those up really quick. I have a whole video talking about my thoughts and like a review of the re-release of this book. If you want to check that out, you can here. I'll wait. Thank you very much for watching that video. So anyway, I reread this book in preparation for Brimstone that comes out in 14 days. As I'm recording this video, it comes out in 14 days. By the time you see this, it'll be even closer. It'll be like next week. We are excited for Brimstone. I wanted to reread this so that the story was fresh in my head. I really did like the immersive reading with this book and the audiobook. So I would definitely recommend doing both audio and physical reading of the book because it was a grand old time. So as you can see, I did tab a lot of parts of this book. That was something that I didn't do the first time I read it because I did read it on my iPad and I didn't even know what tabbing or highlighting was at that point in my reading journey. I had just started reading. The second time around, I did tab a lot of my favorite parts, and I'm glad that I did that. Obviously, when you reread a book, you catch a lot of things that you didn't the first time around. I find myself when I'm excited about a story, I just try to read it as fast as I can because I want to see what's going to happen and I want to know what the next chapter holds. So for this one, I didn't really speed read it because I already know how it was going to end. I knew the plot of this book. I didn't need to speed read. I loved that. I didn't think that I would ever reread a book knowing the story once. I didn't feel like I needed to know it again. I would highly recommend rereading your favorite books. There's just something so special about it. There's a lot of things that are marked in here with spice scenes and the funny scenes and the sweet scenes. And Kingfisher is literally to die for. I had no shame in reading this again. It was such a good time. I feel so prepared for Brimstone. And I did the second time around rate it 5 out of 5 stars. And I would probably rate the spice like 4 out of 5 or 5 out of 5 because it is spicy, but I've read a lot spicier, like a lot more like graphic books. So in comparison, this is probably like 4 out of 5. So second time around, I'm still equally as obsessed, if not more obsessed, and I cannot wait to see what booktube brings us because if you read this book, you know that the ending landed on a pretty huge cliffhanger. So love to see that and how that's going to play out in book 2. So Quicksilver was book 1 that I read in October. It took me about 7 days to get through that book. At the end of this video, I will show you kind of my overall month. The streaks aren't looking too hot. After reading Quicksilver, I wanted to read a Netgalley book. Halloween was approaching, and so this book felt very appropriate for the spooky season. So I did read that on my e-reader. The book was called Claimed by Her Monsters by Lexi Davis, I think. This book had a really fun, interesting start right in chapter 1. However, it didn't really pull me in or give me those spooky vibes like I had hoped for. The book was really fast-paced and I devoured it in a couple hours. The book is also a novella, so it's not very long. The story itself takes place over the course of a day. Some parts felt like we were jumping around, but the world itself was easy to follow. I did find myself confused at times, partially because the FMC didn't really seem to mind about the strange things that were going around with and in the house. Also, she didn't seem very shocked when she found out the house was full of monsters. With that being said, I did like the characters. I wasn't obsessed, but I liked them. They were interesting. The writing style was very light and very fun. Of course, the vampire stood out to me the most because he was possessive. He was very protective and he gave like dark romance energy. Honestly, I wish the story would have been longer, and that's not a bad thing. I also wish if it was longer, it would have been a little more developed. because I think it had potential to be something really great. I think the book had like a really solid foundation, but the story ended before I think the plot could really, you know, sit, simmer, and we really resonate with what's going on. Overall, this book is quick, spicy, funny, lighthearted, but dark. And if you love supernatural romances, this one might be for you. It wasn't a book for me, but it might be something that you would enjoy. I do appreciate Netgalley and Lexi Davis for allowing me to read the book and share my opinions. Overall, I rated it 2 out of 5 stars and 5 out of 5 spice. It had spice. The spice was spicy. After Claimed by Her Monsters, I read Lights Out. Holy moly, was this book spicy. So Lights Out follows our female main character, Allie, who finds herself kind of falling for a guy that she's seen on TikTok. Now, it doesn't say TikTok in the book, but we know it's TikTok. When the MMC discovers Allie and who she is, he kind of leans into her little obsession with him. And he decides to live out her wildest fantasies. The story moved at a very steady pace, but very bingeable, and I was pretty much hooked from the start. I think Allie was a great FMC. She was confident and determined and a little stubborn, full of like energy and fire. The MMC was dark and fun, and we know I like my men protective and very possessive. Their chemistry is undeniable. I feel like their inside jokes and their like playful banter really adds to like the layer of their romance. So like funny and like the chemistry is there, but also the spice is there. So it was kind of a layered romance. There was a family backstory included here, but I feel like a lot of those side characters didn't really have like their moment to shine. They just kind of were there and then not there. I think if the side characters would have played bigger roles, the story would have felt a little richer. The settings felt really immersive and real. There was lots of different scenes for lots of different parts of the story. This was also dual POV, which was really nice. And I loved being able to peek into both brains, but the tone stayed lively and engaging. There weren't any tear-jerker moments or like kind of high stakes moments. But the book is kind of a fun, wild ride. If you like dark romance, you'll think this book is pretty fun. I think everybody should read this book just to see if it's their cup of tea. I did rate this a 3.5 out of 5. I think I would have liked the story to feel a little more rich and full, but definitely 5 out of 5 for spice. After I read a couple light-hearted books, it was time to start a true dark fantasy. And that dark fantasy was anathema. There are videos on the internet where I mispronounce this. You think that you hear me call it anathema, but I guarantee you, you did not hear me say that, and I know it's anathema. And then the 4 digital books we're going to be reading are Anathema? Anathema. But anyways, this book is gorgeous. I got it when I went to the States. Has some foil, has some sprayed edges, has this ugly ass Target sticker, whatever. I'll get it off eventually. But Anathema, I think people are sleeping on this book. Anathema really like hooked me, pulled me in, reeled me in, and served me for dinner in the first chapter. I didn't know it would be so like, well, there was a prologue, but then there was also the first chapter. They both were really good first few chapters, and I did not expect that. It's very dark and it's very intense. And I accidentally did binge this book. I couldn't stop. I just needed to know what was happening. The chapters, they flew by. There were some chapters that were kind of like 20 minutes long, but most chapters, my Kindle said that I could read them within 6 to 7 to 8 minutes. So again, very bingeable. Without any spoilers, this book is about a woman who finds out that she is not like other women, but in a good way, not like an annoying way. And all of a sudden she is being hunted by lots of people and she's not sure why, and she needs to learn about her history, she needs to learn about her bloodline, and she needs to know why these people are obsessed with her. The pacing was perfect and steady and engaging, and it was a very good time, and I don't think I felt that there were any like slow parts of the book. The female main character grows through like actual growth. And I think that is really important in a book because so many times we read characters realizing things or learning things about themselves, but it feels kind of like fake. Whereas this is like, this girl has been through some shit and she's figuring it out. She's coming to like own her power. She's coming into confidence. She's coming into her identity. And it's so satisfying to see. The MMC is a total shadow daddy. He's broody, he's possessive, and he's like that kind of man that like walks in a room and he's like, he knows he's the man and he doesn't give a shit about what other people think. He really just walks into a room and owns it. The romance was the definition of a slow burn. Also, check your trigger warnings on a book like this. They are in the beginning of the book, so you can check those before you get too far in. Kari Lake does disclose that it is a slow burn and please just give it a chance. And I will echo that this book is a slow burn romance and please give it a chance because it's worth it. The romance is drawn out and frustrating at times, and it's absolutely worth the read. The chemistry between the FMC and MMC, 10 out of 10. There were many tropes, I think, in this book, but I don't want to tell you because I don't want to spoil it. The world building was super immersive without being like overwhelming. There's her hometown, there's the new place that she is exploring, then there's like the creepy like forest that she basically has to navigate through at some point, and very immersive. You felt like you were there and a little creeped out. The magic system was mysterious and it was very unique. I haven't read a book like this with this type of magic system yet. The writing style was so good. Kari Lake, great job. Cannot wait to read more of your books. The book is mostly told from the FMC's point of view, but there's tons of humor in here and like sharp as blade lines that were definitely highlighted in my Kindle. And the ending blew my mind. Like, what was that? What was it? And there were some spicy scenes, and they were spicy. They were dark and they were detailed. If you love dark fantasy romance, please pick this up. Please read it. There is a second book. It's from the 𝖍𝖆𝖕𝖙𝖊𝖗𝖕𝖙 series, so I'm going to be reading that one very soon. There's high tension, there's high heat, and if you like that, this is for you. I did rate this a 4 out of 5 stars and a 5 out of 5 spice. So pick it up, read it, let me know what you think. And last but not least, I read The Pumpkin Spice Cafe by Laurie Gilmore on my Kindle. This book was a cozy, autumnal, small town romance. And while it was very sweet, it was a little too cozy for me. Especially after coming out of reading Quicksilver, Lights Out, Anathema, and Claimed by Our Monsters, this one was like lukewarm. The Pumpkin Spice Cafe was what you imagine a book being if it was on the Hallmark Channel. It was big city girl inherits small town cafe, doesn't know what she's doing, fumbles around a little, needs the help of some local, falls in love with the big strong man, and the story goes on from there. It did highlight small town, slower pace life. I personally cannot romanticize small town life because I am a big city girl and I do miss the big city, although I know there are advantages to living in a small town, tight-knit community. I couldn't like buy into the small town charm in the book. This was like insta love. They saw each other, I think the book spans a course of a month, 2 months or something, and after the first interaction they're like, I'm in love. The story did feel repetitive, and I find that that is not my favorite thing. Stephanie Garber, as much as I loved Once Upon a Broken Heart, she also did the same thing. It feels like every chapter at some point needs to remind you of the entire plot of the book, and they kind of drill it into your head. This can't happen. This is not okay. I cannot do this. Why am I doing this? I'm gonna do it anyway. And as important as I think that is for a story, I don't think I need to read about it every chapter, every other chapter, multiple times throughout the book. It got, for me personally, a little annoying. I wouldn't say this was a slow burn. It was insta love, but the two characters fought it for a long time. So in that sense, it was a slow burn. There was spice, but imagine spice being not hot. It was sweet and precious lovemaking scenes is how we would describe the spice in this book. Again, there is nothing wrong with that, but when you come from a month of reading dark fantasy romances, it felt like it was it fell short. And again, this is all my opinion. If you love these types of books, I'm so happy for you. If you rate these highly, I'm also so happy for you. But it wasn't for me. I will say the small town charm in the cozy fall atmosphere did really make the book a wonderful fall cozy read. It made you want to curl up in a cozy, warm cafe and drink your tea or drink your hot latte and soak in the vibes and the colors and the sounds and the smells of autumn. There were some quotable moments. I'm not gonna say it, I'm not gonna spoil it for you, but this book was kind of funny. Overall, I get why people love it, and I get why people love the series, and for that, I'm happy for them. So with that being said, I rated this a 3 out of 5 stars and a 3 out of 5 spice, or lack thereof. So unfortunately, but totally normal, I did not complete my TBR for October. We'll have to carry a couple of those back to the TBR cart. You know, I still read 5 books. And I reread a favorite book, and I still had like a happy, great fall, scary, spooky, fun time. I'm glad I picked out darker books for the month of October because I think that made the month so much more fun. Also, learning things about myself. That your girl tends to like the darker romance. If you made it this far, drop a witch emoji in the chat. I hope you guys had a good Halloween. I'm looking forward to November, and let me know what you guys read in October and what was your favorite read and what you would recommend to me now that I know that I'm a dark romance girly. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe if you haven't. I'm close to 800 subscribers, so I'd love to have you part of our community, and turn on the notifications because I've noticed YouTube doesn't always serve my videos in the subscription feeds. I do appreciate you guys being here with me today, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!